All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
Do you feel it? It's the Mark Thompson Show.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
Happy Halloween, everybody. It is another great day. I love it. Feeling good. Feeling good. Now, the picture you're seeing, if you're watching, I'm told is pixelated in some way.
Ooh, spooky.
Yeah, that is sort of the additional spookiness. It's always lovely to begin every show off the air with half to maybe a full hour of technical issues that we have to deal with because it really just puts your mind in the game. You know, it's jamming my ability to think. I don't have that Steve Harvey, come on stage, embrace the world feeling because of the technical issues. Yeah, exactly. Host everything.
Well, welcome to Family Feud, everybody. I'm your man, Steve Harvey.
Listen to that. You hear that, Kim? That's a guy, it's all taken care of. He just shows up and just lays Steve Harvey on everybody.
He's got the energy.
That's the confidence of an extremely rich man.
Yes, it's true.
Kim, how are you?
Yeah. Kim is here, fabulous producer John Daly. And Tony, we've been working him overtime because of the technical problems. But some of the technical problems, to be fair, are related to me unplugging things that I shouldn't. But the camera situation with the pixelation is not related to that. And but there was like one thing today because I unplugged the wrong thing. I didn't have my headphones plugged in. I think wasn't that what I was telling? Anyway, whatever. Every day it's a little bit different.
It's always something. It's anyway, get us all, man.
I just bring you into our mess for a moment, but I've got a lot of show, and I do want to, again, as I do to start every show, recognize our founding sponsor, tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. I mean, for over 30 years, Steve has been working with businesses and individuals around the Bay Area and across the country. If you're not in the Bay Area and you are someone with a tax issue anywhere in America, he can help you. So contact him at 888-TAX-DEAL, 888-TAX-DEAL. I spoke to Steve Moskowitz over the weekend, actually. We're talking about a couple of things in terms of sort of getting word out to audience of his services. So I was chatting with him over the weekend, and he's just got such deep knowledge. So regardless of your situation and regardless of how desperate your situation may be when it comes to taxes or complicated, Steve can help you. So 888-TAX-DEAL, and you can find him on the web, MoskowitzLLP.com. You want to start with that? Well, let me just mention who's coming up, and then I'll get back to Pelosi and some of the revelations out of all of that. We've got stuff from Herschel Walker on the show today. We'll talk politics with Gary Dietrich. Gary's going to be along on the 11 o'clock hour, so I'm going to sort of put politics to the side a bit until Gary gets here. We'll talk midterms. I will talk about Georgia, Nevada, and Wisconsin, and these states that even New York, where there's there are critical races going down, both in the Senate and in the House. And at 10:30, right after Kim's news, there is a documentary filmmaker joining us, and he has a new documentary film, which I find insanely revealing. And I'll have to tell you honestly, I haven't seen the film yet. I don't think they said. Did they send us a link to the film, John?
Yeah, there's a link to the Hulu platform.
It's on Hulu. Okay, so so sadly I haven't seen it. I saw the trailer and I read the one sheet on it, and essentially it tracks coffee and the route that coffee beans take from being harvested to your coffee cup, and the use of child labor in that process. So there is a dangerous route that the coffee delivery system has to go through. But beyond that, there's child labor involved. That it was really revealing. And as I say, I haven't seen the whole thing yet. It looks very provocative. So Evan Simon joins us at the bottom of the hour, right after Kim's News, to talk about that. Gary, in the second hour, will talk politics. And you can join us on the chat live. You get into the chat the same way you used to get into the text line, only it's easier. You just click and write.
Why don't you just text it?
So you can do that. We'll try to respond to your texts in real time. As you know, the key with YouTube, and I went to YouTube University over the weekend. My weekend is pretty much every day now is spent trying to figure out certain things about YouTube, learning certain things about what we should do as creators on YouTube. So it's a very different experience for me personally. And I would say for John and Kim and Tony as well. Tony, I think, has had some experience in this world. But to do something other than just provide a show, you now have to package that show the right way. You have to get that show out the right way. So these are all things that we're working on. Of course, you also have to fundraise, and we do that as well. So smash the like button.
Smash it with your iron rod.
With your iron rod or with your thumb. Those likes matter. The number of people who watch relative to the number of people who like the video, that's really important. So in the YouTube universe, thank you for smash it.
Iron rod.
Smash it, kids. Smash it. Give us a thumbs up. But remember, once you smash it once, leave it. If you smash it a second time, you defeat your first smash. So you have to smash once.
Smash it with your iron rod.
And leave it at that. So that's the word on YouTube. So we also have a Patreon, as you know, and we'll tell you more about that bottom of the hour. I want to touch on this. First of all, John, you moved this weekend. Everything work out? You're in a new place, right?
Yeah, it was exhausting. Yeah, the whole process.
Did you have help? Did you have like a moving company? Or did you?
I did most of it myself while I was producing the show for the past week, and then I had a friend help me with the U-Haul van to get all the big stuff. But
that's a friend with a U-Haul van, or you're saying you got a U-Haul van and a friend to help you?
No. I got a U-Haul van, and then I got a friend. I put them together.
Okay.
Boom.
Yeah. Friends that will help you move.
Those are real friends.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty special.
Well, I am paying him rent, so he's motivated.
Oh, I see. Well, the revelations out of the Pelosi situation are numerous. The ex-girlfriend of the dude who was involved in this whole thing, she steps up and she says, hey, let me straighten this out. He's addled by drugs. He believed he was Jesus for a while. He's never been able to hold a job. She herself doesn't seem so stable, does she, Kim and John?
No, she really doesn't. She actually is in prison right now for hassling an underage boy. So she's serving time right now. Yeah, she's not. She's not altogether herself either. Her name
he's also much younger than she is. So he was like, I think 20-something when they met, something like that.
Was she the nudist or
yes,
not?
She's the nudist. She was a nude activist. As I was reading an article
that's not appropriate.
State Senator Scott Wiener had seen her at a rally, and he said, she made me feel really uncomfortable to the point that I wanted to back away from her. So her name is Oksane. She goes by Gypsy Taub, and she's in prison right now. But she's contacting the media to say her boyfriend, who is Mr. DePape, the one who allegedly attacked Paul Pelosi, has been homeless, has mental illness.
If you would please.
Go ahead. Drug addiction, etc. So, but it's all coming from a questionable source.
So he used to think he was Jesus? How does that work? Like one day you just realize, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, that's got to be a rough day when you realize you're not Jesus. Yeah.
Like you try to walk on water or something?
Yeah. That has to be
what?
Yes, I'm not. I'm not. I'm not Jesus. Something? What? I'm not? Yeah. I've tried some miracles. I got like halfway there on a couple of miracles, but
the wine is horrible.
Yeah, that's a rough realization. She describes him as a broken child in an adult body with serious mental problems. Okay. He also, this is the other revelation out of the Pelosi attack, he showed up with zip ties, and I mean, he was he was ready for battle, wasn't he? So we characterize these people as mentally deranged, which they clearly are, but they're capable of thinking through a course of action. So I always feel as though, in a way, we attach these descriptors to these people that are insufficient, because he wasn't so addled by drugs or by mental illness that he couldn't, plan an attack, find Pelosi's house, as I say, have zip ties and other materials that were designed to, tie up Pelosi, presumably, and maybe even offer, right? I mean, maybe even kill her and her husband. So I'm, again, I find the revelations in this entire Pelosi matter to be revealing of sort of the way we. And the other thing that I would just say about this is that there is a rise of political violence. We mentioned this the other day. That's of great concern. We talk about poll workers being intimidated. We talk about public officials of all sorts being intimidated. You saw Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, being the victim of a kidnapping plot. And that's just one high-profile case. I mean, this is happening everywhere. You're seeing mass resignations on the part of those who are election workers who just don't want to, essentially they've been intimidated into resigning. They just don't want to take the heat anymore. I mean, there's real threat to their families. So I see that as immensely troubling. You'll keep me posted on the chat, right, John? I'm
right.
Okay. I'm also wanting to just note Elon Musk, who has more than 100 million followers on Twitter, and who just bought Twitter, as you know, for $44 billion. He tweeted about Pelosi, and he tweeted a link to some conspiracy theory and to a website which has served up Hillary Clinton conspiracy theory back in 2016, saying that she had actually died in 9/11 and that it was a body double that was taken. That's representative in a sense of what that site cranks out. And then Musk took the tweet down, but you see how
it doesn't bode well.
Yeah, how the world of Twitter can be fouled by that kind of thing, and how Musk may indeed allow more of that. I do want to say
it used to be such a respectable space.
Yeah.
Full of positive energy.
3 days after he buys Twitter, he's posting these anti-LGBTQ conspiracy things about Paul Pelosi's attack. Then, what do we have to look forward to from him as the leader of this platform? It's concerning.
Well, I think that concern is well placed. I will say this about Twitter and the future of Twitter, because a lot of people are getting off Twitter now. There are a lot of high-profile people are saying, I'm done here with this platform. First of all, it's only been a couple of days. I certainly understand that, though. I mean, Musk, while inspired in some ways, and you could say, a successful CEO when it comes to managing Tesla, et cetera, and even his forays into space. He's a dangerous guy. I'm not a fan. You know what I think of Neuralink? I think that's a horrifying and
well, he could be petulant. Remember, he called that guy a pedo guy. Remember that?
Yes. Yeah. Petulant's a ding word, by the way. You're right. By the way, can John's volume come up a little bit? He's a little low.
We can always boost it. How about that?
Yeah. Thank you. A little better. I read the guy walked in the back door. Was the back door unlocked? Did a housekeeper forget to lock the door? Was Mr. Pelosi outside and didn't lock it? What happened on that, Kim? Do you have any info on that?
Know that he
Kim,
made
how
his
are
way
you?
up to the second floor, but I don't know exactly how he got in and whether it was super easy for him to have gotten in.
It was surprising that, Kim mentioned this the other day, that there was no security detail. The fact that there's no security detail doesn't surprise me. They're with with Nancy Pelosi. They're with the congressperson. She was in Washington, D.C. That's what the security detail is. But then Kim made the point that, well, they're very wealthy. You'd think there'd be some security on duty. That's a good point. And then this person who texts appropriately, well, how did the guy get in? I mean, there was a housekeeper. There was a third person there. That's something that has
No. I'm reading a story in the Chronicle, and District Attorney Brooke Jenkins, who's been on the Mark Thompson show recently, called it a forced entry to the rear door of the home, saying that Mr. DePape ultimately made his way upstairs where he confronted Pelosi. And the police are saying in this article in the Chronicle, there were only 2 people in the home at the time, that they were the only 2 people there, Mr. Pelosi and Mr. DePape.
Well, he had a hammer. So, and now people are saying in the chat that, maybe the hammer was used to break the glass. It looked to me like the glass was broken. Nancy says that. So he broke the glass door and back, says Liz L. So
yeah, it looked like it was a patio door, like a glass patio door.
I mean, it's a pretty easy entry, right? You've got a hammer, boom. You reach in and it's open.
And he was really smart. He went and asked to use the restroom, I guess, where his cell phone had been charging in the bathroom, and called 911 and left it open, the line open, so the dispatcher could hear.
Wait, he asked to use the restroom while he was being attacked?
I said, I need to go to the
he
restroom.
said, I've got to use the bathroom. He said, he did, but John is right. Like, I don't know how that ask went down. You know what I mean?
Excuse me, teacher.
Before you beat the crap out of me, can I just take a leak? I mean, I don't know. I don't know how it's, it is weird, but however weird went down, he was able to do it. And that dispatcher also is being credited for getting cops out there quickly. They say cops responded within 2 minutes. So
yeah, I think they have that address like on their their hotkeys.
Yeah, maybe, but you also don't expect that there's going to be that kind of call for help, right? I don't think there's ever been that kind of call for help at that address.
Well, they did have that attack on. You remember with the pig's head and the blood on the front of the door, and they had SFPD were camped out there for a while, so they know that address.
Why don't you just text it?
Why was there glass on the outside of the rear door? Anyone have an explanation for that? Says John Schneider. There was glass on the outside of the rear door. You mean it was broken from within? That's interesting.
Well, I mean, if you're attacking a glass with a hammer, I don't think you're being that precise that everything's going to go in.
Oh, you think so? Yeah. I mean, it's possible some of the glass fell out. Yeah.
Fell out.
I mean, it's
a big glass door from what I saw.
And I just don't know. Right. So there'd be a lot of glass maybe shattered in a number of places in and out. I don't see any credible evidence or even a credible narrative that would suggest that there was anything more than this guy entering, at least thus far. I mean, it seems pretty straightforward from that standpoint. I also don't feel as though necessarily this guy, I understand he might have been animated by a right-wing agenda, but it seems like he was just confused. It wasn't just right-wing. It was, he even had some lefty type stuff in his earlier postings. I mean, thinking you're Jesus and, all these different political positions. He was an anti-Semite, it would seem, based on the...
He did believe in the child abduction, like Pizzagate type conspiracy. He said, just because it didn't happen at that one location doesn't mean it's not happening elsewhere.
So he really was scrambled up in terms of the logic. So that scramble all led to this act, and that's where we ended up. So I know that everybody was jumping on a political agenda. The left was saying it's the right. And the right was saying, you see, those lefties, they can't even, keep crime out of their own city for their, elected officials and congressperson. It was I think it's so unseemly. I can't believe that you would hear within almost minutes of the attack, the sort of pivoting to making it political on the part of particularly on Fox News. I mean, it was just it's unconscionable, I mean, this guy went into surgery, okay? I get that bottom line, he's going to recover fully. He's 82. He was attacked by a guy with a hammer, okay? I mean, recover fully? I mean, what does that mean? Is he all there?
And you think he made up that story? Like, why?
Exactly. Why? Yeah, Jennifer says it in the text line, it's horrible what happened to Mr. Pelosi. Not sure why people doubt his account and that of the police. Yeah. I'm kind of with you. Did anyone see the absolutely despicable Instagram post by Don Jr. about the Paul Pelosi Halloween costume? No. Really?
That's so
that's
gross.
Brutal. Yeah. That is brutal.
Did you see the hoopla over Jackie Spear? She was interviewed by KTVU, and she said, when upon finding out that the suspect was yelling, "Where's Nancy?" She said, "That's what they yelled on January 6th. right? So she made the connection, and the anchor said, well, we don't know that yet. But I don't know. I just wonder, how do you not know that? How do you not know that it's political if someone's targeting Nancy Pelosi and yelling for her?
Randy says Fox News talked about the Pelosi attack on one of their Sunday shows. They seemed to blame the Pelosis for not having alarms and eventually said that the reported story doesn't add up. I don't see how it doesn't add up. Seems like it adds up perfectly.
Guy broke in, attacked him with a hammer. I mean, the end of story.
If you have a political agenda and everything's going to fall into that political agenda, then I think then you can say the story doesn't add up. But again, you can say it, but it does add up. So anyway, I can't imagine. I mean, the Don Jr. stuff and in Trump world, there is no bottom. So it's sadly, and you know, in America, increasingly, there's no bottom. But it's these are scary times that way. And again, as I was mentioning before, when public officials are intimidated or attacked, that's a real issue. So, and it's one that we will continue to talk about because it seems to be getting worse. So, I do have a story of the lottery lightning striking twice. And there was a major breakthrough in the world of true crime. It happened over the weekend. And a major victory in Brazil for good for the planet. So I'm hoping that I can share that with you as well. We'll get to all of it. But right now, I don't want to wait any longer. I mentioned him at the top of the show. He is our Mac Daddy. He is the OG when it comes to taxes. He's Steve Moskowitz, everybody. Our founding sponsor joins us. Our exclusive sponsor. Steve, good morning.
Good morning, Mark. Happy Halloween, and let's not have the IRS doing any trick or treats with you.
By the way, John, executive producer John Daly,
fabulous producer John Daly.
I love that Steve Moskowitz's camera and lighting is so much better than mine after I've thrown the world at trying to get my camera and lighting better. Can you
Well, he's a very experienced, successful businessman.
That must be it. That's someday I will be an experienced, successful businessman. But for now, Steve, it's great to have you here.
The light is through your knowledge and your expertise. So that's the light that I see.
Come on.
Supposing you brought the light inside the body.
Yes, I could bring the light inside the body, maybe. Steve, talk to us about what you feel is a front and center opportunity for so many Americans who are even sole proprietors as business people. I'm talking about ERC.
ERC, Employee Retention Credit. This is where the federal government is giving away up to $26,000 for every employee that you have that qualifies. So if you had 10 employees, that would be just over $250,000, 20, just over $500,000, and so on. How do you qualify? There's what I call the easy way and the complex way. The easy way really is easy. Did you have a certain drop in gross revenue? That's yes or no. It's math, nothing to talk about. But Mark, a lot of firms are stopping there. And they're saying, if you didn't have the drop in gross revenue, that's it. No ERC for you. Goodbye. They don't want to do the work. We're happy to do that with you. So we'll talk, even if you didn't have the drop in gross revenue, we'll talk to you and we'll see, do you meet the facts and circumstances, called partial closure. For example, every business, including an essential business like Safeway, a food store, could only use the inside of their store from the beginning of the pandemic until 6/15/21. Ordered by the state of California. That's a 75% government ordered closing, supply chain disruptions, and a lot of other things. We'll take the time and the effort. We'll go over it with you. Not everybody qualifies. If you don't qualify, we'll tell you, you don't qualify because of X. But if you do qualify, and a lot of people do, we'll say, okay, you qualify because of Y, and let's get every dollar to which you're legally entitled. But in the watch out list, watch out for the other extreme. There's a lot of companies, especially companies that just popped up to do ERC, and then they're going to disappear when the IRS has a few questions that says everybody qualifies, and they're just committing frauds. The IRS is investigating them. We're a law firm with over 30 years of tax experience. And the bottom line is we're here for you. We want to take care of you. And we want to use those over 30 years to go ahead and get you every dollar to which you're legally entitled.
And, you know, we got this on the text line from Francis. Steve is so great that I'm thinking of not submitting my taxes on time so I can hire him.
How about instead we submit your taxes in time, but we do tax planning first so you legally pay a lot less, just like the Fortune 500. That's why I became a tax lawyer when I was already a practicing CPA when I went to law school. Maybe I can do that for you. Give me a call.
I mean, that is the key. That there are a lot of opportunities. You can still file on time. That way there are no penalties associated with it. But Steve can, even if there are penalties, Steve can negotiate those penalties down. I mean, we've covered that in other conversations and will again. But I love that. You can reach him at 888-TAX-DEAL, 888-TAXDEAL, 888-TAX-DEAL. If you know somebody who may have a tax issue of any kind or a small business owner, refer them to Steve. 888-TAX-DEAL. You can also find him online, MoskowitzLLP.com. Steve Moskowitz, everybody. Come on.
Yeah.
Thanks, Steve. Talk to you next hour, yeah.
Do you feel it? It's the Mark Thompson Show.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
I want to get that lottery story. John, maybe you can put it up there. Before I do, I wanted to just touch on big story, I think, is that the federal government is warning western states that it may impose Colorado River water cuts. So as the drought continues, the 1,200-year drought, the West is looking at two main reservoirs being overtaxed, overused in the judgment of the federal government. And through drought and climate change, there may be radical changes in the way we have access to water in California and across the West. And the federal government is coming down to actually give the states an opportunity to reach a deal. But if they can't reach a deal, then the federal government will impose limits. So I wanted to mention that. We'll discuss it in greater detail in the weeks to come. But it was big news. It broke late Friday when we got off the air. And I'll get to the lottery story in a second. But first, I want to recognize on the text line.
Why don't you just text it?
And Beth, thank you. I've got a brand new monitor here, so I'm able to see all these things. Put this toward a better camera system. Right on. Right on. Thank you for that, Beth.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for that donation. Happy Halloween from Gail Guthrie.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. It really does matter. Help us keep the lights on. Sausalito Steve, are you kidding? $50.
Big shout out.
Big shout out to Sausalito Steve. Right on. Sadly, we need donations to keep things going here. So that's one way to do it is on the super sticker or super chat. Remember, if you hit the super chat with any donation, we will read your text 100% of the time. So
100% effective. How about
to get
that?
Through to the show. Karen says, we aren't blaming Pelosi for being attacked because his alarm was off, are we? It's true. I mean, that's the politicization. I mean, you can always ask these questions. How come the alarm wasn't on? How come this? How come that? But you can't blame the dude for, somebody busting into his house and attacking him with a hammer and looking for his wife to do God knows what. So, does Steve have offices in the East Bay? Beth, yes. Call him and get in touch with Steve Moskowitz, 888-TAX-DEAL. Thank you so much. Everybody, I do want to mention, somebody told me to remind, the like button has to be hit, please, on every video. So if you're watching a video after the fact, please hit the like button there as well. Every video has to have likes. It's weird, I know. For those of you who are new to the YouTube platform, it matters. The number of people who are watching the show or have watched the show, even the number of people watching the recorded show, that number has to be in some way compared to the number of people who liked the video. And so that's why liking the video is so important. And people
smashed it with your iron rod.
Smash the like. Somebody said, Mark, we get it. You don't need to hit the smash it all the time. I kind of like hitting the smash it.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
I don't know. People like the smash. So, I don't know. Kim's news upcoming. Let me kind of quickly tell you the story of this this lotto winner. First of all, she's 70 years old. Shout out to the 70-year-olds. To my older boys and girls. So she plays the lottery. She's in Delaware. She claimed 2 six-figure rewards. Playing the lottery, twice she hits winners in the same week, my friends. She wishes to remain anonymous for obvious reasons. She'll find some, relatives she didn't know she had. She bought the tickets near Newark, Delaware. Those of you who are East Coasters may know that. I grew up back there, and that's kind of on the way to the ocean for us. So we used to pass Newark, Delaware. At a gas station, she bought these things. It was her biggest win since she started playing the Delaware lottery 7 years ago, she said. She was driving home after picking up her earnings from lottery headquarters in Dover, Delaware, with a friend. She bought 3 serious money tickets to play the lottery again. She bought those lottery tickets from a convenience store. So the first ones that won, she got from a gas station. Second one, she got from a convenience store. One of those tickets was a winner that paid $300,000. My best friend was the first. Talk about a stimulus check, man. That'll get you going.
That's a severance package. That's right.
If we won the lottery now I'm buying lottery tickets just to try to keep everybody on the show in the money. My best friend was the first person I told about winning the $100,000 top prize, and she came with me to claim that prize. When I scratched the $300,000 winning serious money ticket later in the day, we just sat there in disbelief. It was absolute insanity. So
she got them in order.
She got them in order, and she got the extra points. That's exactly right.
If you get it in order, you get extra points.
The pair returned to the lottery headquarters for the second time to claim the $300,000 serious money prize. Her total for everything, $400,000 for the day. So in one day, she collects $400K. So hope springs eternal, everyone. That's a story on the double lottery winner. When we come back, Evan Simon, documentary filmmaker, talks about the brutal route and dangerous route that coffee takes to get to our cup. It's a truly revealing documentary. It's on Hulu now out of ABC News. So, yeah.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. Charges are coming for the man accused of attacking 82-year-old Paul Pelosi in his San Francisco home on Friday. San Francisco District Attorney Brooke Jenkins is expected to officially file charges against 42-year-old David DePape. He could also face federal charges because it's believed he specifically targeted House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. DePape is expected to be in court for his arraignment tomorrow. Can race be used as a criteria for college admissions? That controversial issue to be examined yet again by the Supreme Court. Lower courts found that Harvard and the University of North Carolina complied with past Supreme Court rulings allowing race to be used as a factor in evaluating applicants. The previous rulings were only, though, by a slim majority, and now the court is thought to lean toward conservative. So the case filed again, and today, challengers focusing arguments on civil rights will begin making oral arguments to the justices, hoping they will overturn those precedents. Firefighters in San Jose saved a dog who was trapped in a burning duplex last night. San Jose firefighters say all the people in the house made it out okay, but a dog was left inside. So they went in and saved the dog. Elon Musk and his inner circle having detailed discussions about Twitter's approach to content moderation. They're also talking about plans to lay off 25% of the workforce, and that's just to start. $1 billion on the line tonight with a Powerball jackpot. Mark Thompson already buying the team tickets. The estimated prize for tonight's drawing. It's only the second time in the Powerball's 30-year history that the jackpot has been $1 billion. If you
get it in order, you get extra points.
You get extra money is what you get, yeah.
If you didn't want to get the money doled out, just wait for that payment, yearly payment. Take the cash, which is what Steve Moskowitz recommends. The cash value is estimated at $497.3 million. That is, of course, if no one else gets all the numbers as well and you don't have to split-see it with someone else. But even though no one won the big jackpot, 6 tickets won $1 million prizes on Saturday's drawing, 2 of them in California, one in Rivera, which I believe is in Southern California, and the other in the Sierra foothills. Big waves today along the coastline of the Bay Area, waves up to 19 feet tall expected on this Halloween, bringing dangerous conditions along the coast. And this report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses alike. If you need help with your taxes, give Steve a call, 888-TAX-DEAL, or you can reach him on the web at moskowitzllp.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
Do you feel it? It's the Mark Thompson Show. Feel it in your soul. The Mark Thompson Show.
Who's Mark Thompson?
It was wrong, it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
Oh, yeah. Yes, happy Halloween, everybody. I am surrounded in the luxurious Mark Thompson Show studios by all of my Mark merch, which you can get on the website, getmarkmerch.com. Yeah, if you don't have the tote bag is new, just newly added. Actually, Courtney ordered it. And rather than let her use it, I said, well, I need to hang that there. Obviously, we have stuff that we have to hang here. There's an available spot. And the camera today is pixelating anyway, so you may not be able to see it really well. But the mugs, the coffee mugs, are a hot item. You can
get it, hot item.
Yes, and they will keep things hot. We do have the hydration devices. Those are well. You go to the website, you can see everything we've got. GetMarkMarch.com. I think the most exciting thing we have, and I've got to put this up this week, is the KGO and Exile T-shirts. So if you want a KGO and Exile T-shirt, you can get it at GetMarkMarch.com. As you know, I have this show on the Mark Thompson Show channel. Nikki has a show on the Nikki Maduro channel, the Nikki Maduro Show. So you can live the rebellion, my friends, at getmarkmerch.com. So there is a new documentary on Hulu that is produced by a guy who is an award-winning documentary filmmaker and producer. He joins us now. This is a documentary about the dangerous route that coffee takes from being harvested to being brewed into our cups. It's called Caffeine Jungle, as I say, out of ABC News. It's on Hulu now. Evan Simon, everybody. What's up, Evan?
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. That was Kim saying hi, and John, you've spoken to already. So I watched the trailer for this, and I've read a little bit about it. I can't wait to sit down and watch the documentary. You'll pardon me. I was at YouTube University all weekend, so I didn't have any time to see the full documentary. But maybe in a way that's good because I can ask you questions that the audience might have as well. Tell me then, I mean, first of all, the process of getting this story looked incredibly dangerous for you and your crew.
Yeah, there were a lot of obstacles along the way, and thankfully we had a really strong local team that was able to navigate us through it all. But yeah, I'm happy to talk a little bit about that, and thanks again for having me on the program. It's great to be here. Essentially, we were trying to take a look at this emerging world of ethical certification, specifically in the world of coffee. And we wanted to take a look at one of the most prolific regions for producing so-called ethically certified coffee. And when I say that, I think many of your listeners might recognize these stamps that you'll often find in the grocery aisle, things like Rainforest Alliance certified or Fair Trade certified. Those are two of some of the biggest names that folks might realize. And we wanted to take a look at what life was like on the reality, what was like on the ground for producer countries such as Mexico, which the southern state of Chiapas is sort of the beating heart of ethically grown coffee in North America. And so we went down there. This is, it's a beautiful place that I'd encourage your listeners to go to, or I'm sure some of them are already aware of it. It does have a lot of history of struggle and poverty that's baked into that area. But it's a fascinating place to go. And the ethically certified coffee world has really proliferated there specifically Rainforest Alliance and Fair Trade. So we wanted to take a look at some farms down there that we had gotten some words that there were some reports of child labor and farmers living in poverty on these ethically certified farms. And so we wanted to see for ourselves. And so we went down. We had the help of another great California-based journalist, John Carlos Frey, who's been really covering this for almost a decade now. And he was a huge asset to us on the ground and definitely helped us navigate some hairy situations as well.
Yeah, I mean, it looked, as I say, like there was real threat of physical harm to you and your crew as you were going through this. So I can only imagine. I mean, there has to be sort of a commitment to power through whatever. I mean, are you? And I want to get to the sort of the conscience cleaning that we all do with so many things. You know, we get what's called, free range chicken, or we'll get, any number of things, cruelty free this or whatever. And this falls into that category of, having been certified as environmentally friendly and as part of a process that has minimal of a negative effect on the environment, and also minimal negative effect on society. So this sort of, to me, is that kind of greenwashing that we do, I think, in large measure. But so I want to double back to that, but I want to ask you about how you knew you were likely going to be facing physical threats to you and your crew, right?
Yeah, we had known from John Carlos Frey, his prior reporting on the issue, that this is, nobody really wants to have child labor exposed on their farm. And, it can have a lot of ramifications for that farm. And so they will often, the threat that had been expressed to us was that folks will really try to prevent that type of footage from leaving these mountains. And these are very remote areas of southern Mexico and Chiapas. And so we would basically go to these public roads where we knew workers would be leaving the dormitories of ethically certified farms to go and work on the fields, and they use a public road on the way there. And so we would essentially go before, and this is sort of one part of a year-long investigation, but to just get at this issue that you're asking about, we sort of staked out these farms on this public road before sunrise out in the middle of the jungle, and then waited for the workers to emerge from the dormitories and then walk to the fields on the road, at which point we could talk to them, we could document and see sort of if there were children amongst them. And sure enough, immediately there were about a dozen children walking out with their parents, and some of them alone as well, carrying their own baskets. And it's important to state that under the rules of the ethical certifier in this case, which was Rainforest Alliance, farms like this one, which rely on a large migrant workforce, often have families coming to live with them. That's not out of the usual. But what is supposed to happen is that these children are supposed to be in childcare or school while their parents work, not working an 8-hour shift in the jungle beside them. And it's really important to also understand that, I would just say this as well, that the parents and the families that are involved with having incredibly difficult choices to put your child to work. I think for someone, here in America, I think that's often a much harder reality for us to grasp, but we have to recognize these are families that are often leaving Guatemala, taking very dangerous journeys to get to these farms in the first place. They have very little other option but to bring their children with them. And often having an extra set of hands is a way that the family keeps themselves fed as a whole. So it's a really complicated, issue that's hard to sum up briefly, but it is important to note that these children under Mexican law and under the Rainforest Alliance policies were not supposed to be working there. And that was evident to anyone that would go and be on the side of that road that day.
But that puts it in a nutshell, though. The families have an interest in their kids working on some level in some cases, because that brings in more money to a family that's already subsistence existing. Right. So as you say, there's some complexities here. By the way, we're talking to Evan Simon, if you're just joining us. His documentary is part of a Nightline offering on Hulu. It's called Impact. So that is to say, that's the series is called Impact by Nightline, and it's on Hulu. But this particular episode is Caffeine Jungle. And as you say, I was saying before, sort of a great personal peril. These guys went down there, Evan and his crew, and you got to travel, I think, with a pretty lean crew to make it through these very tough spots to reveal the story. So now to the ethical part of this, because this really is, as I say, it's a kind of ethical washing that we do with these certifications that don't necessarily reflect accurately what's happening with the product we're purchasing, in this case, coffee. So I presume you follow up with those that do the certification.
Yes, absolutely. We had extensive communication with both Rainforest Alliance and Fair Trade International about what we found on the farms that we visited there. It's important to note that we did not find child labor on Fair Trade International farms. We found farmers making about $1,000 or $2,000 a year as Fair Trade International farmers and struggling to get by on that. But it is a different set of sort of findings there. But I would say that we reached out to both of these groups extensively. Fair Trade International did sit down with us, and we conducted an extensive interview with them. I think what is really important to just say about all of this in regards to what ethical certification means and is, without giving you too much of a history lesson, essentially, this was brought out to fill a gap that government oversight was not filling. The idea was that in the 90s, sort of in the post-globalism world, where all of these sort of global South countries, as we sometimes refer to them, were entering into markets with the global North, and then we saw a lot of reports of child labor, sweatshops, things like that. There was a huge uproar at that time, and instead of seeing a lot of international government oversight around these issues, what we saw was sort of an attempt at a sort of free market solution, which was the ethical certification industry. This idea that we can create certification labels that will verify ethical and socially responsible claims, so that consumers will have a much better alternative to sort of the standard issue global capital market, which
so that producers, right, Evan, would have then an economic incentive essentially to clean up their act.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's expensive to invest in this type of, whether it's a certain type of sustainable agriculture or labor laws for these producers. It's an expensive to get up to these certification standards, and they wanted to be able to demand a higher price at market as a result. And that was the whole idea. And what, unfortunately, it seems that a lot of academics and researchers that have looked at this is that they found that it's systematically failing to prevent human rights abuses or provide things like living wages or assurances that there is no child labor involved with something, especially like coffee. It's been known for some time that child labor is a big part of coffee production. That's not news. What is sort of different now is that we have these ethical certification groups. When you pick up that stamp, you expect that, I would assume, that there might not be child labor involved with that kind of product, that the farmers would be making a living wage. And unfortunately, those realities seem much further off than the promises that have been offered. And so just getting back to your original question, is that Rainforest Alliance, Fair Trade, both sat down with us, Rainforest Alliance did not sit down with us, but they did offer, a lot of information and statement regarding their policies. They've adopted an assess and address approach to child labor, essentially, which goes beyond simple prohibition, helps farmers identify and address the root cause of child labor. They ultimately canceled the certification of 3 farms where we identified child labor at. They say basically that their system does not promise to be infallible and that they're trying hard to correct this issue. I think Fair Trade, what they talked to us about really was these ideas that tackling the concept of a living wage is far more is very, very difficult for one organization to do, and that they sort of pointed to this being a very structural problem that the region faces. I think what critics have said, and what some academics and researchers that we spoke to said, is that, well, that subtle picture that you're painting of basically there being limitations to these goals are not often conveyed to the consumer. And in fact, when you look at some of the promotional materials that these organizations put out, they do not have sort of a lot of disclaimers about there might be child labor involved, there might be a non-living wage going on. It's often very, flowery language, glossy PR that makes you believe that you are doing something when you tackle these issues by buying these ethically certified products. And what we've found, and what other academics and researchers have found, is that is not an assumption that we can make, essentially. And I think that's the last thing I'll just say, is that the big takeaway that I would have for any of your listeners that are wondering, I really want to be able to, do something with my dollar to help farmers and to help people on the bottom of supply chains. I think that, the takeaway here should not be to start boycotting the ethical certification industry. It's really just have a sobering up moment as consumers as well, to know that you can't really pat yourself on the back when you buy this stuff. You've got to, if these things are valuable to you, you have to go further than that. And I think that even the certifiers would agree with that as well.
Someone was asking about, is Colombian coffee tied to the cartels? Can we buy Hawaiian coffee? I mean, this is the world of what are the alternatives? Does this affect? It would seem I would suggest that what your documentary really tells us is that this is going on across the board. You've just identified it in these places in rural Mexico, but it has to be going on elsewhere as well.
Well, I do want to be careful about what we found. We found stuff in southern Chiapas, in Mexico. That's where our zone was. But there has been extensive reporting on this happening in the Ivory Coast as well, especially in regards to ethically certified chocolate. The Washington Post has done a lot of remarkable reporting there. This is definitely has been touched upon globally. There's also issues with Indian tea estates on certain ethically certified regions that a lot of British news outlets have done. If you do a little bit of digging, a little bit of scratching into this world, essentially you start to see that it's a lot more complicated than what the advertisements and sort of even our own consciences want us to believe. I think we all want these things to be true. We just have to question how effective they really are at this stage.
There was
Kim had
article.
Something for you. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, there was an article recently within the last year about the similar incidents with palm oil and children, not even teenagers, but children with scythes climbing up these trees and doing this really dangerous work. And that, even though it was certified that we weren't supposed to have this happen, that, as you mentioned with coffee, that families needed these kids to work and the kids needed the money, and so it was happening. And this is the palm oil that then went up in Scout cookies, and then so you have here girls in America profiting off the backs of children in other parts of the world making palm oil. So it caused a problem in my house with my Girl Scout, who then refused to sell the Girl Scout cookies. So it's it's all over the place, as you mentioned.
It's really I completely agree, and it's a really complicated effort to try to understand essentially what it means to have a lot of commodities that are tied to developing in global South countries that are the main producers, where we are the main consumers. Essentially, you have a number of commodities, a number of products where the global North, wealthy folks like you and me, are the main consumers, and we want to keep the prices in these producing countries as low as they possibly can be. That's sort of a universal trait of sort of our market as we know it today, and it causes, when we look at the real world ramifications across the board, there are really serious losers in that game, and they are often these producer countries where we want labor and resources to stay as cheap as possible often.
Well, and there's such an interest on the part of these countries, particularly when it comes to palm oil, but it's across the board. It could be whatever commodity, in exploiting those resources. I mean, especially in these emerging countries or underdeveloped countries, however you want to refer to them. This is fascinating. And again, this is part of a series on Nightline. It's a weekly news magazine that gives you hard-hitting investigations, and this is certainly one of them. It's called Impact by Nightline. So it's out of ABC News, unfiltered, straight to the source reporting is what they say. This is, again, one episode called Caffeine Jungle, but it's part of this series. So you'll find it on Hulu under Impact by Nightline, and check out Caffeine Jungle. Evan, so good to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
You're the real thing, my friend. Award-winning producer and journalist, the son of another award-winning journalist, as I recall. Isn't that right?
That's right. Yeah, I believe you had him on recently.
Your father is one of the most respected journalists in the history of our medium of television. That's Jim Avila. So really cool that you're not only carrying on the tradition, I'd suggest you've hit even greater heights. But maybe that for the next time.
I doubt that very much. It's a hard, but I'm also happy to say it's my grandfather was also a radio journalist, so it's a trait in the family I'm happy to carry on.
It really is a rich tradition. Evan Simon, good luck with it. Caffeine Jungle. Find it on Hulu under the ABC Impact. Yeah. Thanks, Evan.
Thank you so much. Drops every Thursday. Sorry, I forgot to say that. Thank you so much.
Oh, okay. Good stuff. Thank you.
I've told you it's never easy being in this business.
The Mark Thompson Show.
There's a lot of that, environmental greenwashing and that conscience washing that you do. And I think is done regularly. As I was saying, you see it with that, cage-free lie that is told often with eggs and chicken and, produce of all sorts. Sustainably. The word sustainably is thrown around a lot, and you see it, and you go, that's great. I mean, if given the choice, I'd rather purchase those things that are sustainable. So, but when you get back to what actually is happening, which is what this documentary, you see the realities. So,
yeah.
It's kind of like they make believe that recycling is happening on a level that we think it is. Right? People want permission. They want to feel good.
That's a great example because we have seen just in the last few years around the Bay Area and beyond the closing of these recycling plants. And the reason they closed them is Gary going to come on now? I thought Gary's going to come on at 11.
Gary's going to come on at 11.
Okay. So, I see. So Gary's in the green room now. Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, Gary, make yourself a drink.
Gary's very prompt. He's very prompt.
Yeah. Amazing. So he's coming on right after Kim's news, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So
whoever is producing this thing has no idea what they're doing.
Thank you. I will finish my point. Then we'll go to Kim's news, then Gary. I do want to talk midterms. Everything's tightening. I think it's hard to predict. Gary can give us some real knowledge about what's happening politically. We'll do that after Kim's news. But let me make my general point about the closing of those recycling plants is what I was saying. And the reason they closed, the stated reason, was because there's no money in it. In other words, they couldn't make a profit with the recycling, local recycling. Now, as you know, part of the bigger issue is we used to export all of our recycling to Asia primarily. And that completely shut down at the time of, it actually shut down about 3 years ago. The pandemic didn't help, but it was really pre-pandemic when that started to happen. So now we're stuck with, as a country, all of these recycled materials that we can no longer export. So that now brings me back to the closed recycling plants. So they closed because there wasn't any money in it. Okay. As a society, we have to decide whether everything that we have associated with sustainability is going to make money. The answer I would suggest respectfully is no. In other words, we do a lot of things in this society that don't make money. We do things as a culture. We help certain parts of the society. We subsidize certain parts of the society. We subsidize certain businesses in the society. We do it because we're trying to incentivize and encourage investment in that thing. And so when it comes to sustainability, I'd suggest respectfully that we need, as a people, to underwrite it. I get it. It doesn't make money. It's not a business plan related thing. We are trying to live sustainably. That means we need to underwrite these recycling plants, and we need to have more of them. Otherwise, we are drowning in plastic, we are drowning in toxins, and it's horrifying. We're literally drowning in this stuff.
Why are you
dumping
yelling?
It into the ocean and beyond? What did you say? Right on?
No, I said, why are you yelling?
Oh, why are you yelling? That's right. That seemed more appropriate. I thought,
why are you yelling?
I've never heard you say right on.
Right on, dude.
We can do it, people.
Yes, you can.
We can do it.
Yes, you can.
We got the money. We got the society. We can do it.
Yes, you can.
The other thing you should do is like our show right now. If you're watching on the live stream, hit the like button. Smash it like a boss, people.
Smash it with your iron rod.
And then coming up, Gary Dietrich will legitimize this entire thing with some real comments.
He's a cool dude.
He is the coolest. He is the coolest.
There's never been anything like this.
You can say that again. Great to have you all with us. We've got a full hour still to come. Join us in the chat. Join us in the stream. Like us. Find us. Enjoy the magic. We'll take a break for Kim's news, and then we will continue. Mark Thompson Show. We are live, streaming on YouTube.
Yeah, baby.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. Former President Donald Trump is asking the Supreme Court to stop the IRS from turning over his tax returns to the House. Trump filing an emergency request with the Supreme Court today after a federal appeals court cleared a path for those returns to be disclosed to the House Ways and Means Committee. Trump wants a hold to be placed on the release of his tax returns before they're allowed to be disclosed later this week. Pretty big comeback with a win-off race yesterday. Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva elected the next president of Brazil. The 76-year-old politician's win brings Brazil back to the left. There are about 800 new units, housing units, coming to Treasure Island. Crews started pouring the cement for the foundation on what will be the first tower in San Francisco's next high-rise neighborhood. It will create the 248-unit Tidal House. It's a 22-story tower, I should say, set to open in 2024. According to the Chronicle, it is the first of a half dozen high-rises slated for this new neighborhood on Treasure Island. Some people trapped in Disney China. That is because China's zero COVID strategy led to a lockdown at Shanghai Disney Resort that sent hundreds of visitors scrambling to the exits. This, according to Reuters. All of the people at the main theme park and surrounding shopping areas were told they had to stay inside until they tested negative for COVID. This is because of the new COVID rules there in China. Several social media posts showed the rides were still operating. The guests, though, were subjected to mandatory testing. Those who tested negative were allowed to leave Disney's resort, but were required to isolate and test for 3 additional days per China's COVID policy. If they tested positive during that time, they'd be required to enter a quarantine facility. There were a total of 10 confirmed cases reported in Shanghai yesterday. All of the people were asymptomatic. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses alike. If you need help with your taxes, give Steve a call, 888-TAX-DEAL, or you can catch him online. It's moskowitzllp.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now, he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson.
What up, everybody? It is such a thrill to be with you on
the Mark Thompson Show.
Thank you. I'm humbled. I'm humbled by your affections. Thank you, everybody. It is exciting to be with you on Halloween, is what I was going to say. I know people weigh in on Halloween on different levels. You know, there are people who make a whole month of it. I'm going to a Halloween party later, and you got to dress up. Not a big dresser-upper. But as I showed you the other day, I'm going as a NASA astronaut. Got the actual NASA astronaut suit off of Amazon. I didn't realize that's where NASA buys the suits. They get them off of Amazon, which is crazy.
Is that
because
so?
they're not that expensive. Yeah, right.
Now, are you going to have any, things to carry? Are you going to bring Tang, perhaps, or?
Oh, that's an idea, like props. That's
right,
see,
prop. Yeah,
you're better at it than I am. I haven't planned that, but that is
what about that ice
something.
cream, like the dots?
Dippin' Dots, yeah.
Oh,
Dippin' Dots.
Yeah, the space
these
ice
are
cream.
all things I would take in meeting on any of these things. Sounds like
Kim, how are you?
Yeah, very good. You heard Kim.
Fabulous
Producer John Daly and Tony can explain why my picture is pixelated because we're getting questions about it. But so happy you're continuing your show. Love from Phoenix, is that?
No, Portland, PDX.
Oh, PDX. Sorry.
See the trees right now, the tree emojis?
But oh yeah, sorry about that. Sorry, Portland. Shout out to Portland. Thank you, C-Star lady. Love it. $20, and we appreciate the shout out, and we also appreciate the money to keep the lights on. Elwin is a daily visitor. So love you, Elwin.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Elwin, for your contribution, $1.99 today. Every little bit helps. Every little bit helps. You can smash the like button. You can also make the contribution, and you can do it through a super chat or a super sticker. And if you're watching us in playback, you can hit the heart with a $sign through it, and that'll make the contribution that way. We also have Patreon and all these other ways. Very important to support the show because, frankly, we're trying to stay on the air, and it costs money. This guy's amazing. He's been so patient to wait in our green room for so long, and our green room is the virtual green room, so it's not even the lavish green room we would likely have him in normally. He's Gary Dietrich, political analyst for years for KGO, and now he exists with us here in our new reality. Thank you, Gary. You're so kind to join us here.
Hey, good to be here, Mark. And I wanted to get in the green room early because you remember our last attempt at this was
yes,
by the tech gremlins. Hey, one thing about the COVID China Disney thing, I have absolutely no doubt this was an enterprising teenager who said, I want Pirates of the Caribbean all to myself. I'm calling in a COVID alert. That's what it was.
Yeah, kind of a SWAT thing almost, the way they're I love the opportunity to speak with you at this moment in time, not only because we're so close to the midterm election, but also because this moment in time, I refer to this time in America. I can't remember, and maybe you can put this in some perspective, which is why I value your presence additionally. I can't remember a time, not only with the divisiveness. I mean, I think there's been divisiveness for, on and off, and it ebbs and flows in different ways, and it manifests in different ways. But the sort of aggression that has taken on even the physical violence associated with some of this aggression, the intimidation of poll workers, I was mentioning it before, the intimidation of public officials. I'm wondering if you could speak to that and then speak to how it might influence the election.
Well, Mark, I do think you're onto something that, many people are concerned about, many people are talking about. And, it is part of a larger concern societally. And, you look back and let's not forget, during the 60s, during a lot of times, there was significant unrest. I think one of the distinct differences now is that technology has enabled targeting of this that never could happen before. What do I mean by that? You took your placard, you went out on the street, you even maybe went to the mall in downtown DC. You weren't able to target people. Just think of all the social media platforms now. Think of all the ways that people can get an individual's private data, what their cell phone number is, what their address is. I mean, that's at the tip of your fingers on these things. And I think that is one of the larger concerns. And I think it's one of the larger concerns of those who hold public office, as well as those tasked to defend them in law enforcement. And that is, things are closer to home. I mean, remember when we had demonstrations and threats of violence, even against Supreme Court justices in the last year? Now we know, of course, about the Pelosi home in San Francisco. I mean, for some, I think this is getting way too close to home. And I think it is unprecedented, certainly in recent American history.
The personal attacks that are associated with conversation that would normally be about policy, it seems that is also a transformation that we've seen. The personalizing of things that would otherwise exist in the political sphere. It's an extension, or it might be the catalyst for what you're talking about, which is associated with, now I can ID where that politician who I've demonized or who I've heard is personally responsible for ruining my life. I can identify where they live.
Well, let me put my, sociologist hat on even further. Thank you, UC Santa Barbara, for my political soc degree, before making my way up to the really expensive place at the Kennedy School. But I think the thing about it is this is part, again, of a larger sociological framework of people yelling at each other. I mean, I love your drop about that. But seriously, through these devices, the level of personal animosity and targeting of that, it isn't just gossiping up and down the street anymore. It's specifically posting things about a specific person and, directing that through their social media flow and all kinds of things. And that has spilled over, obviously, into the political arena, but it's not exclusive to that. Look at how the celebrities are targeted. All kinds of other folks, even in neighborhoods get ostracized, kids in high school, and the concerns about that related to teen suicide. I mean, I think it's unfortunately part of a larger sociological expression of angst, frustration, anger, jealousy, whatever you want to call it, that clearly now is spilled over into the political arena. And it is concerning, Mark. And I think particularly when you think about the fact that to carve out any political policy over time, compromise is absolutely necessary. Nobody gets their own way, left, right, center, whatever it is, all the time. And if you can't have dialogue, and if you can't come to some sense of comedy and compromise, and I mean that with COMITY.
Right, and that is a ding word. Go ahead. Yes.
Thank you so much. I told a friend I got to get at least one ding on Mark's show, or I'm not qualified.
Comedy is clearly, COMITY.
So that's my deal, Mark. I think it's part of a larger sociological framework and problem.
And I love that you made that last point about just that compromise has to be part of the solution. And sadly, it feels as though the power grab that's going on and the rancor and rancor is a ding word too, that has informed the dialogue and debate has less to do with compromise and more to do with, as I say, taking hold of things. I want to ask you about specific races and what to watch. So with election night, as I'll refer to it, but I mean, the results begin to be tabulated as polls are closed, and we still have in various states various different ways of tabulating, various different protocols for tabulating, right? I mean, sometimes I don't understand why you can't process all ballots that come in early. You don't have to count them, but you should at least process them prior to election night. That does happen in some states. It doesn't happen in others. What about what to watch on election night?
Well, California, you are absolutely exactly right about that, Mark, that a lot of people think all of this is federally dictated. It's not. States have their own significant leeway in how they process ballots, when they count them, how they count them. So, for example, in California, those early ballots, those mail-in ballots or early voting ballots are already being processed. But in a state like, for example, a really pivotal state like Pennsylvania, they are clearly, the election officials there are clearly managing expectations because they were reminding people nationwide, look, by state law, we cannot even begin to process the ballots until election day. So that is, they can't be open, they can't be run through the verifying machine. None of that can happen. So that's why, election night will still be key. And I think we're going to clearly know some things, certainly when it comes to the House. I think almost certainly we're going to probably know who's controlling the House that night. But when it comes to the Senate, that may not be the case for two big reasons. One is Pennsylvania, because a very tight race, of course, between Fetterman and Oz. That's become nationalized, that race. And the other one that's nationalized is Georgia. Now, what's the challenge in Georgia? Georgia has very interesting laws of their own. If one of the two candidates, and of course right now that's Herschel Walker and Raphael Warnock, if one of those does not get 50%, they go to a runoff a month later. So there is the potential that we will know the control of the House, but if it's as tight as we think it might be, potentially we won't know control of the Senate till the first week of December when that runoff happens.
That's wild. That's wild to consider. In the Fetterman debate, would you have counseled Fetterman to just say, I'm not going to debate, I've had a stroke, and some of my words, you could have made a statement along the lines of what he made in his opening statement during the debate, which is, some of my words come in sort of a labored way to me, but I can think clearly, and I've been certified by doctors, et cetera, and you wave off the debate. That way you're not pilloried by the opposition for what can be anticipated to be a questionable debate performance, since it's all about oratory in a debate. I mean, it's not only about policy, it's about how you communicate that policy. What? Pilloried is a ding word. You're right. Go ahead, Gary. Would you have counseled him against that debate?
Well, I think the Fetterman camp was really, really stuck between a rock and a hard place for a couple reasons. One, because remember that now infamous interview with the reporter, which is probably a larger mistake. When remember, she was nailed because she said, he stuttered and stammered. But when you saw the debate, the interview, you could see some of that. And after that debate, remember, there were even Democrats, many of them saying off the record, not for attribution, but said they never should have done that. As a result of that interview, the questions about Fetterman's capability and his communication skills raised even further than they were. And I think that raised the stakes and, frankly, the pressure on Fetterman and his campaign to put him forward for that debate. Then put also out there something else people rightly pointed out. Oz is a TV guy. Mark, you know how this goes. I mean, if you're experienced in using those kind of formats, you have a big advantage. I mean, witness Ronald Reagan, famously, this guy was at ease in front of the camera, and people noticed that right away. So I think it was really difficult. Had Fetterman not done the debate, the questions would have loomed just as large and maybe even larger. Is he up to the challenge? I think they thought, let's get it out. Let's take our lumps here at least a couple weeks before Election Day and see if we can recover on that. The race was already tightening. We don't have any hard and fast evidence, Mark, that there was a major jump in favor of Oz right after that debate. But we do know now that the trend towards Oz and away from Fetterman, which has been gradual but consistent over the last few weeks, has continued. Really, it's coming down to a toss-up next week on Election Day.
You make a really good point, and when you recalibrate how we look at that moment, there might have been no choice. I guess I look at Donald Trump. You know what Donald Trump said when they say, well, you're not releasing your taxes? Everybody releases their taxes. He just sort of said, hey, I'm not, okay? It's being audited, whatever. I mean, he just floated some BS story. You can handle these things. He's still making stump speeches. He's still out there if you want to see him. We don't want to put him in a forum. I don't want to dwell on this, but it's such an important race, and it's so very close. And I think it's interesting that you just alluded to the fact that there might not have been movement. Like, it didn't move the meter much, what happened there. But it just struck me as tactically, while such a difficult situation, admittedly, it still struck me as tactically a mistake. So I want to move on. Nevada is also another very important race that's close.
Absolutely. I mean, our sister state here, it could come down to Nevada. There's a current sitting Democratic senator who's right now in an exceptionally tight race. Republicans think they now have the advantage in this race. All of the Senate races and most of the House races, it's difficult to find right now, Mark, anything but these trending Republican. Now, you got to take a step back and say, this is historically the case. I mean, in a first midterm election, literally every president loses seats. The average since World War II for those elections, regardless of whether it's Republican or Democrat, is a loss of 28 seats. And we now have approached those numbers for most of those who create these kind of averages nationwide. In Nevada, this is going to be absolutely critical. This is another one of, there's about 3 to 5 states that really are going to be tipping the balance of power in the Senate, and Nevada is one of them.
So what could the makeup of the House and Senate look like on when the dust settles? Maybe it's December 1st when it really settles. But
go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, please. That's essentially it.
Yeah, I think the House right now, that cake, I think both sides of the aisle. In fact, there's now word out this morning that the White House is even preparing for a Republican-controlled House. What does that mean? It means we're still going to have a California speaker. It's just that it's not going to be one from San Francisco. It's going to be one from the Fresno area, and that's likely to be Kevin McCarthy. And Republicans almost certainly, because remember, they only need 5 out of 435 seats, that 5-vote swing to gain control of the House. And I think it's widely expected by all the polls that is going to happen. So the real question mark becomes, are we going to have a divided Congress, or is it going to be a united Congress of Republican control against a democratically controlled White House? The Senate, remember, is vitally important to control, not just because, you can advance or block legislation, but really importantly, because of those judicial confirmations. Now, the Senate confirms other posts as well, and you'll have some, and you always do during midterm elections, you'll have some departures from this Biden administration, maybe more if things don't go well for Biden. But you're going to have some departures, and there'll have to be other confirmations, but those judicial confirmations are really key. So what is it going to look like, Mark? Almost certainly we're going to have so-called divided government. We've had a united, front for Democrats here for the last 2 years, but it's going to make tough sledding for budgets. It's going to make tough sledding for other, policy objectives. But let's add one more piece to the puzzle, and that's politics. there is going to be tremendous pressure on President Biden to announce what he's going to do in terms of 2024, certainly before the end of the year. And probably the pressure is going to grow in the next couple of weeks. And it is certainly going to grow, Mark, if they lose substantial numbers in both the House and the Senate, because he's going to be blamed, like it or not, with his 40% approval ratings. A lot of the blame is going to fall at the White House doorstep.
You know, the days of approval ratings that exceed that by much, they may be gone. In this America, Gary Dietrich, don't you think that I don't see, I mean, I understand when you get into a war or something, like some huge event may inform approval ratings like George Bush enjoyed those after 9/11, et cetera. But apart from that, I think these kind of lower approval ratings may become the order of the day as we move forward, just in general in politics in America.
You're exactly right, Mark. Just you look at the approval ratings going back, let's say Obama, Clinton, Bush, you rightly pointed out, they were all in the 40s as well. People forget that. They think about Barack Obama was wildly popular, nationally. No, not so. Same thing with Clinton. Same thing with Trump, certainly. And you rightly point out the only exception we had to that was after 9/11, when George Bush's ratings were in the 60s at that point in that midterm. But it is tough sledding right now. I mean, in the current political environment, when you have 48, 52, 49 in polls, and about 4 or 5% throwing up their hands and saying, "How about none of the above?" It is tough to maintain and sustain any kind of political momentum. And just keep your head above that 50% watermark.
Our last moments with Gary Dietrich, political analyst for years with KGO, and can be seen, as you know, on television as a political analyst as well. You touched on something which I find immensely troubling. There was an op-ed on this over the weekend. It was the politicization of the courts. And so court appointments, which had always been, let's face it, I mean, we've always known, it's been unspoken, that there's a political aspect to some of these court appointments. I'm not talking about the Supreme Court right now. I'm talking about appointments elsewhere in states and localities nationwide. There is now a politicization of that. And there is a fervor about those appointments, a political fervor I'm talking about, that would seem to be redefining the way the courts are going. And in this election, that may be increasingly with a difficulty about getting things done and more being settled in the courts. Increasingly, that might be where policy is actually shaped. I'm wondering if you could speak to that. You touched on it. I find it immensely troubling.
Well, Mark, you're talking about something that's exceptionally important going forward. And let's make no mistake about it. The courts, by necessity, because these cases are being brought to them, are getting involved in elections. I mean, famously, this really started with Bush v. Gore in the Florida Chad count, right? That's where this thing really reared its ugly head in terms of demanding that the Supreme Court and courts lower got involved in elections. But it's happening now all over the country. And this is really concerning because I think the polls are showing this. Legitimacy of the judicial system is being brought into question because of this. And of course, when it came to the Supreme Court appointments of the last year or two, that was exacerbated, or last couple of years, that was exacerbated even more. So we're in a place right now where I know many in the judiciary itself are concerned about it, and certainly our political figures as well. Hey, just a reminder, people can find me on Gary Dietrich at Twitter, at Gary Dietrich on Twitter, or if they want to find the TV stuff, Mark, they can just Google me, Gary Dietrich, and find stuff if they absolutely insist on watching me mess up on TV, not just on radio.
Don't be self-effacing, ding word. You are you're so experienced. It's your takes that are clean. I'm so delighted that you spent time with us, and people should find you at Gary Dietrich. We're all on Twitter for the moment. We'll see what happens with that platform as it changes, but that's a great way to find Gary. And Gary, thanks so much for being with us today.
Of course, Mark. And hey, I want to give you and the team some real kudos. Just coming in here today, man. The production values, the job you guys are doing on the show, spectacular. Keep it up.
Oh, thanks, pal. All right, Gary Dietrich, everybody. Thanks, Gary.
Good to see his face today. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's a good one. Really good one. Terrific. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
If you have thoughts, you can share them. Do it right there in the text. Yeah, you can do it.
Why don't you just text it?
Yeah, just like you used to. Only now you text it into the YouTube chat, and that's a community that has formed there on YouTube. We appreciate it. Also, we'll give the shout-outs after Kim's news. We'll shout out to everybody who's made contributions. On our ballot, we vote for judges, but their political party is not listed. How can we prevent a Kavanaugh from getting on our California courts? You do. That's from Kathy, 2 Kit Kats.
2 Kit Kats.
You do have to. 2 Kit Kats.
And a microphone.
I should have you read. Can we change the way we do that, John? I mean, why do I read these things? Kim can read them, and she can read them better than I can.
We can take a meeting.
Who's producing this thing has no idea what they're doing.
I'm just saying, John, you can have her.
It's a power struggle, really. It's a power struggle.
Anyway, the answer is you have to do research. You have to do some work. It really is important. These judicial appointments are critical, and these judicial elections are critical. So, is that a potato you're using for a camera today? Says Scott. Yes, thank you, Scott. We're having problems with the camera. And Tony, I wonder if you could speak to the problems. Tony he's our ninja. And
thanks, Tony.
Hey.
All of a sudden, it happened right before we went on.
Yeah, it was fine, and then it just kind of muddied up right before the show, and reboot the computer, reboot the router, internet.
Thanks, Tony.
Internet things. I'll work on it. I'll come up with
Everything
another
looks-
redundancy.
Yeah, we're building more and more to make it better and better. But yes,
Have you tried
today.
power cycling your cable modem?
Yes,
You tried reinstalling.
Have you tried turning off the entire house and waiting 20 seconds and then slowly
Have you
powering
tried
it
throwing
back
your
up?
computer into the street and driving over it and then backing up over it again? Have you tried that?
Exactly.
Morning.
Yeah, thank you. That's how I feel every morning.
Morning.
Anyway, that was that's the reality is, yeah. Sio says, donate to get Mark Thompson a better camera. This is a brand new camera, isn't
In
it?
my defense, it's a very good camera. It's just
it's not the
internet.
camera.
It's a
Yeah.
4K camera.
Anyway, you can donate, of course, through all the themarkthompsonshow.com has a PayPal link, so you can go right to our PayPal if that's your preference. Otherwise, the Patreon link is terrific. Please click on the Patreon, whatever you can spare. That helps us as well. It does take money to get all these things.
Is this another ploy to get donations to roll in, Mark?
Yes, it's not a ploy. It's a direct plea.
Appeal?
Yes. So, never trust a computer you can't throw out the window, says my guy. Hit that like button, smash it with your iron rod.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
Somebody earlier in the chat said they don't like to smash it with your iron rod. Sorry, I think that's going to become in the old
Well, there are
in the old
people
show.
who don't like drops at all, and then there are people
yeah.
who warm up to it, and then there are the people who really love them.
That is true. That John is right. It's there's the full mix of those who have every manner of
It's a
opinion on
spectrum
things.
of hate.
Yes, it really is.
It's about as bad as it can possibly get.
Okay, well, there's that as well. I miss Simon. I miss him. I miss the old Simon, the angry Simon. The one who would tell it to you straight. Now he's a dad. He's softened. He's
Well, that's because he took the fillers out of his face.
He did. He did get a lot of work done on his face, man. Gotta say, that Simon got a lot of work done.
Then
on
he
his
undid
face.
the work, and that's
Yeah, and then he undid it, right?
I think there's a hint of desperation. I really do.
Can't rule it out. Can't rule it out. So, what's the plan, John Daly? Tell me what's happening here.
Fabulous producer, John Daly.
What is
you're
the plan,
basically
sir?
reading comments until the news.
Okay, so the news is coming. Oh, I'd be happy to read his comment. I love the drop, says Knit1 Pearl 1. So there you go. Yeah. Eric Kennedy, glad we don't hear the Trump drops. I don't want to hear his voice anymore ever again. Well, I don't know.
Do I hit it long? Is Trump strong?
I'm sorry about that. You knew that was going to happen. Come on. On the old shows, I was going to tell you, when somebody would say I don't like the Trump drops, that meant it was a note to us to play way more Trump drops that day.
Yeah.
When somebody said I didn't like what else? They didn't like
Why don't you just text it?
Why don't you just text it? That's right. And I didn't like why don't you just text it. But once they said we were going to
got removed.
We were going to take it away, but then somebody said, I just can't stand it. And I think Albert was the producer at the time, and he said, well, that means we got to run it like crazy.
Yeah.
So,
why don't you just text it?
So now it's a part of our... Will John Rothman visit soon? I hope so. In fact, I wanted to talk to you about that, John. I think maybe even later this week if we can integrate Rothman. It's sort of a key political time, so I'd love to get his take on things. He's not super tech savvy, so we have to just bring him up to speed, but I'm looking forward to doing that. I did do a Twitter Spaces over the weekend, and I saw people asking about that. That Twitter Spaces that I did with Chip and with Nikki, that is up on Twitter. So those who are still, able to get onto Twitter, I think you can just do a basic search. You could search any of our timelines, and you'll find it. Can I give you 30? I'll tell you, when we come back, I'm going to give you 30 seconds or more on what I think the future of Twitter is. Twitter has been a forum for journalists. Twitter has been a forum for a conversation. Twitter's also, to be fair, a forum for disinformation, but it's likely with the reins off, there'll be a lot more in the way of disinformation with Elon Musk in charge. And then the question becomes, how does Twitter sustain itself? If you make it a cesspool of hate and recriminatory chatter, then is it still something that's attractive to advertisers? So that's something that I will talk about after Kim's News. Recriminatory is a ding word. Thank you. So we'll do that when we come back. Kim's News next. We'll get onto Twitter, more comments, and we will formally recognize so many of you who have made generous donations. So thank you for finding us. Thank you for smashing it. Thank you for being here. Mark Thompson Show live on YouTube.
I've told you it's never easy being in this business.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kit McAllister. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. With restrictions on abortion rights in many states, there is a push to allow women to have access to abortion pills, even if they're not pregnant. Reproductive health care provider Choice wanted to allow advanced provisions of these pills to keep patients' stress levels low. But according to Politico, the FDA, which regulates abortion pills, says providers offering them to people who aren't pregnant are acting without FDA authorization. They say they're concerned patients could use these pills outside of the 70-day window in which they are approved to end a pregnancy, and that a medical professional may not be able to assess if a pregnancy is intrauterine or ectopic in nature. It will cost you to be a verified Twitter user, one of the first moves apparently being made by Elon at Twitter. He wants to charge users $20 a month to be verified on the social media platform. That according to The Verge. The verified users are the ones that have the blue check marks next to their name. And according to The Hill, Musk isn't messing around with this one either. Twitter employees have until November 7th to launch this new subscription feature, or they'll be fired. That's it. The message delivered to staff yesterday: users who already are verified will have 90 days to subscribe or lose that blue check mark. San Francisco District Attorney Brooke Jenkins is rejecting conspiracy theories about the attack on House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband, Paul. She says the suspect in this case, 42-year-old David DePape, was targeting the House Speaker when he broke into the couple's San Francisco home and attacked Paul Pelosi with a hammer. Jenkins is expected to formally announce charges against DePape today. He was on suspicion of attempted murder, elder abuse, and other charges. His arraignment officially set for tomorrow. It was a hazmat situation at LAX this morning. Sickened at least 4 people, one of them in critical condition. This after a carbon dioxide leak at a baggage area. LA Fire saying the leak seems to have occurred after a popping sound was heard inside of a small utility room where carbon dioxide fire suppression systems are kept at the airport. The 4 patients were all workers who were in or near that room. Pretty creepy scene in Benicia early this morning. A man arrested after he was found hiding inside the closet of a woman's home. It was about 2:45 in the morning yesterday. The woman says she started hearing noises from a bedroom. Police came out, found the suspect in a closet with a folding knife and duct tape. It was a bit of a struggle, but officers arrested the man. He's being identified as 41-year-old Timothy Allen Allison, booked into the Solano County Jail on multiple charges, including first-degree burglary. And not sure if you heard this one, Mark, but actress Julia Roberts says Martin Luther King Jr. and Coretta Scott King actually paid the hospital bill for her birth. How did it happen? Yeah. Roberts says Dr. King and his wife, Coretta, took care of the hospital expenses when her parents couldn't pay the bill. It really helped them out of a jam. Apparently, her parents had a theater school in Atlanta. They called it the Actors and Writers Workshop. And one day, she says, Coretta Scott King called her mother and asked if her children could be part of the school because they were having a hard time finding a place that would accept her kids. So they all became friends. And that, she says, led to the Kings paying for the birth of what CNN says is the woman who would go on to become an international star.
Wow.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Great story. Yeah. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses alike. If you need help with your taxes, give Steve a call, 888-TAX-DEAL, or catch him on the web, moskowitzllp.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now, he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson. The Mark Thompson Show.
Oh, so spooky. Yes, it is Halloween, and the trick that's being played on me is with my camera, so I'm a little pixelated today. But so it goes. We've tried everything, and that's the way it's going to be for the balance of the show. Joan Rudloff. What up, Joan? Thank you, Joan, for that.
Kim, how are you?
No.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Joan. I am here with Kim.
Kim, how are you?
And fabulous producer John.
Fabulous producer John Daly.
And I'm here with Tony, who's
Thanks, Tony.
Magically putting it all together today. But thank you, Joan.
Kim, how are you?
No, Joan,
thank you so much.
Okay. $20. Thank you. Now, Jim Avila is a
thank you so much.
Super supporter, made a contribution the other day. I appreciate all of you who make regular contributions to the show to try to keep us on the air. In a moment, I'll be sharing my thoughts about what will happen with Twitter. Tony in San Antone. Come on, Tony.
Big shout out.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for $20, man. Thank you, Tony. Elwin, also a regular visitor. Super sticker for
I'm
20.
sorry, really.
Thank you so much. Big shout out.
Big shout out, and thank you very much. Thanks, Elwin. That's super cool. You can contribute to the show by hitting us with a super sticker or hitting us in the super chat. You'll find it at the bottom of the chat thread. So right there where you're chatting, you can go to the bottom and you'll find it. And you can also go to our Patreon. That's at themarkthompsonshow.com. Themarkthompsonshow.com offers a chance for you to become one of our patrons. And you'll see the names of our patrons, and that can be you included in those names at the end of the show. Mark has been assimilated and is now a bot like Max Headroom.
Thank you so much.
And I think assimilated is a dang word. Yeah, there you go. Well done. I do feel bottish and Max Headroomish today. From Nick comes this on the text line.
Why don't you just text it?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Elon make a comment back in the day about wanting to destroy Twitter? He probably did. I don't know.
He probably did and then took it down immediately.
Yeah, exactly. He's made so many comments and then, he's backed off them. Did I miss the 49er chat? Says Perry Joe Jim Bob. You did not. We did not do any. We got right into things today that didn't include the 49ers. The 49ers were probably, I'm trying to think back on all the games, maybe the most dominant victory of Sunday's football. And I thought they would win and beat the Rams, but I didn't think they would dominate them that way. I mean, it was just utter dominance. It was a huge day. Christian McCaffrey came to life, the latest high-profile Niners acquisition. And honestly, Jimmy Garoppolo came to life, and he did it with utter handsomeness. So it was really quite special. A big, a
Yes,
big
he did.
Niners day. Yeah. And of course the Bills. We have some Buffalo. Come on with my Bills. Love my Buffalo Bills. Although I will tell you, they dominated against Green Bay, but the dominance that the Niners had over LA was greater even than the Bills' dominance over Green Bay. I thought the Bills would win by a couple of touchdowns, and don't get me wrong, I think they won by 10. But when you really think that they're going to win by more than 11, that's how you could lose money if you were to, because that was the line, 10.5 or 11, if you were to bet. So I offer that to you guys as a reminder that sports gambling and sports wagering is tricky. And if you are going to sports wager, don't lay double digits in the NFL. It's a bit blurry, but is that Kim's whip in the background? Oh, I don't know. Is there there's a background whip? Is there a whip
your
behind
house?
me?
I don't have a whip at my house. Is there a whip at your house? Oh, there.
No, you didn't. Oh, maybe in your picture, original picture, there might have been one. Elon's push to expel bots from Twitter is a big deal, says Phil. It may be. There's a lot that's a big deal in Elon's push. He's charging, you heard in Kim's news, he's charging for the blue check now. What is it, $20 a month is what he wants?
Yeah, $20 a month. That's not chump change.
Yeah.
Who is having that conversation?
Right. Well, at $20 a month, you'll now pay for that check that seemed to have some arbitrariness about it before, but also did define sort of a certain cred on Twitter, if you want to think of it that way.
That's not fake. That's real.
No, that is not fake. That is real.
That's not fake.
And
that's real.
$20 is real money. I mean, if we got $20 a month from people, that would help lift this show up. So,
but so you can buy your blue check mark, or
maybe
you can
get a
support the Mark
Patreon for
Thompson
Elon.
show.
yeah, I'm just saying.
Ooh, it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
Yeah.
And we know Elon doesn't need your money, so
Yeah.
you know.
Now, what will happen with Twitter? I will tell you. And we're going to talk to Steve at 10 of, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that right? Okay, good.
Yeah.
So I'll make sure I'm on time.
You're doing great, MT.
Thank you, pal. Thank you very much. So people are saying, well, once the lid is off all of the moderated speech, and you have Twitter infested with anti-Semitic, racist, hateful, misogynist crazies, all of whom are posting with even a greater frequency than they did on their other platforms, and now they can post at will on what essentially is let's just call it a much less moderated platform under Elon Musk. How will advertisers even come to Twitter? Who would want to be associated with that? I think two things. One, Elon doesn't care about advertising. Elon has a lot of support. A lot of outside money has flown into this entire project to help him, even enable him, if you want to think of it this way, to actually make this deal. And I know he's overpaid for Twitter, Chris, but the other thing he's going to do is he's going to charge for Twitter. You've already seen him do it with the blue check. Now you're going to see a pay gate when you want to really play Twitter. You may even see different levels of Twitter participation.
Do you have to pay more if you want to post a racist comment?
Are you,
Anti-Semitic
that
comment?
would be, look,
Like
that's
a
a wild idea.
Wild idea, but it just might work.
Yeah.
Extra $9.99 for hate speech.
Yeah, smash the racism, right, which for $19.99 for every tweet. I mean, he can do a number of different things to monetize Twitter in ways that we're not used to seeing. You're used to seeing it being a free platform. It's not going to be a free platform anymore, I would suggest. There will be a membership associated with Twitter. He has to recover funds somehow. And then, see my first point. I don't think Elon Musk cares about endearing himself to advertisers. He's a rebel. He's made his name being rebellious.
So are you saying he's not altruistic?
That's exactly what I'm saying. And altruistic's a ding word. I know you only made that comment to get a ding word. Pay to say so much for free speech, says Eric. Yeah. So that's my take on Twitter. I'd love to hear your thoughts. But Andrew Peters, thank you for the thank you for the donation.
He's talking about bringing back Vine. He was apparently doing a poll of Twitter about whether he should bring back Vine, which was, I think, kind of like the little short video clips, right?
Yeah, they would loop. They were like short, kind of like TikTok videos, short videos that would loop, and they were mostly funny. A lot of comedians got in on that.
Yeah, they were 6 seconds, I think, right?
Yeah.
It was amazing what you could do in 6 seconds, actually. Where is the speculation drop? That's a good question. Where is it? That's pure speculation. John, do you have it? Does anybody have it?
I sent it to you 2-day shipping. You should have it by now.
Hang on a second. That's pure speculation. I've heard that. Hang on a second. That's a good question, and everything has to be reworked with the.
That's pure speculation.
Thank you. That needed to be. Thank you. Yeah. Who suggested that? Who suggested that? I want the name of that young man who suggested it. You have
Trevor in Concord.
Trevor in Concord. I'm moving you up in the organization. That was a great thought.
That's pure speculation.
Exactly. Trevor
and a
Concord.
donation.
Whatever happened to that pure speculation?
That's pure speculation.
Love it, Trevor. Love you and thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Pure speculation will find its way back into the mix in a higher profile way.
Seriously, what the fuck?
Seriously, what the
Let's just do 10 minutes where people text in drops they want to hear.
Drop karaoke.
No one knows the drops like fabulous producer John Daly.
Fabulous
he
producer
knows them
John
better than I
Daly.
do. Robert Marr, hi Mark, can you please also comment on reports that Jack Dorsey is going to something Twitter-esque? It could perhaps compete with Twitter. That, I think, is where the next platform will live as a moderated but open, free platform. Something has to replace Twitter. So you have major publications, journalists have really driven a lot of the success of Twitter, and you even have politicians and high-profile people. I told you before that Musk has an interest in bringing Trump back to the platform because the traffic that Trump brings to Twitter is immense. And that's only good for the platform to have that kind of traffic. You can monetize that kind of traffic, even if you're monetizing it from advertisers that haven't traditionally purchased stuff on, I'll just say it, toxic platforms. So the toxification of Twitter may be bad for the public discourse, but it's not necessarily bad for Elon the way he sees it. And he can squeeze money out of subscribers and paywalls that are going to go up. And you've seen him do it with the check mark as well. So I think that's the future. And then you're right. Dorsey and others, it's an opportunity. You have to look at this as an opportunity if you're
So Dorsey's
in that
platform
world
is
of-
called Blue Sky Social, and he's already received 30,000 signups in 2 days.
Oh, wow. So there you have it. Yeah. I mean, I think people will flock to that. I saw my Twitter timeline was filled with people saying, I'm leaving Twitter for a while. I'm done with Twitter, you know. So
Well, that's
it's
just the
definitely out
Hollywood
there.
elites, Mark.
No, that's true.
The
Those were the
latte
Hollywood
sipping
elites.
liberals.
Yeah, I saw Tia Leone. Who else did I see this weekend when that? I was the one who originally suggested that should be a drop. Oh, that's interesting, Trevor. Yeah, that's pure speculation. Yeah. Judy says, I recently joined social media platforms Tribal and Counter Social, but haven't explored them too much yet. Well, let us know how that goes. Yeah, there are going to be a number of these things that percolate to the surface. The question is which ones sustain, which ones last, right? And that's going to be. Now, speaking of sustaining and lasting, I have to ask you, I'm hoping MySpace will make a comeback. Does MySpace have a chance in 22, 23? Billy Barty is asking. Billy Barty, of course, a reference to the great Billy Barty, who was actor, little person actor.
A lot of people have pointed out that my profile picture looks like Tom from MySpace.
Oh, it does look a little like Tom from MySpace. I agree with that.
What?
Yes, I see it. Imagine being able to pay your car insurance through Twitter. Big changes are coming. Yeah, Twitter as we know it is going to change dramatically. You're right. It might be a place where there's any number of commerce being done. So, as I was saying, percolate is a ding word. Is it? All right, yeah. But thanks for the donations. We'll wrap up with donations at the end of at the show today. But right now I want to take a moment and recognize the guy who is the OG. He's the tax ninja, over 30 years of tax experience. Our original sponsor, our exclusive sponsor, Steve Moskowitz, everybody.
Thank you, Mike. And your light looks much better on this broadcast.
And does it? I don't know. You see, it's weird because I don't see it how others are seeing it. It's not like a mirror. It looks clean here, but it's been pixelated along the way.
There's a major difference between this visit and my last visit. You look great on this one. The other visit,
not so good. Yeah,
lighting was a little challenged.
I have to say that what's a fact is that you've set the high bar for lighting now. And I mean, it's weird because you started as this kind of profile backlit. It looked like one of those confessional things where they're trying to
go back to that if you want.
No, but I'm saying now I have to live up to Moskowitz. So there's a lot going on here.
Why are you yelling?
All right, so I will. We're efforting to improve it, but I'm glad it's a little improved over last hour. So, so you get calls on ERC as a result of these conversations, don't you? What are the questions that people ask?
Is it too good to be true? Is it real? And the bottom line is, yes, it is real. And this isn't something coming from a private company where you're saying, where's the catch? This is coming from the United States government because they don't want small business to go out of business. And let's face it, without PPP and ERC, a lot of businesses that are open today would be shuttered, not knowing how they're going to pay their bills. And the government figured out that it was less costly to hand out money to qualified businesses than it was to have all these bills going unpaid, all these people going on unemployment, and the horrible economic repercussions would have if you have all these businesses to go down. It's almost like you see banks that give out money to people that have borrowed from them so they can keep in business and eventually pay them back. But this is even better because there's nothing to pay back. It's a grant. They just give you the money. And the government says, that's okay. If they give you the money, you're going to make money and you're going to pay income taxes and you're going to pay payroll taxes and those employees are going to pay taxes. So the government economists figured that the best thing they could do was hand out this money so that American business could continue. And one of the things I've cautioned people about is the two extremes. There's two ways to qualify. There's the easy way and the complex way. The easy way is just a certain mathematical drop in gross revenue. It's a number. Either you make it or you don't. But a lot of companies, a lot of CPAs are stopping there. They don't want to go to the work and the trouble of figuring out, do you qualify on the facts and circumstances method? You don't want to go to them and leave all this money on the table. And I've seen lots of people that didn't have a drop in gross revenues. Well, how could I have a business problem if my revenue actually went up? And the way it was best said to me is one of my clients said to me, Steve, he used to pay $7 a unit. Now he was paying $22 a unit for the same thing. He said, so his total gross revenue has gone up, but he's lost a lot of sales, lost a lot of customers, and he's really suffering because of this. Even though if you just look at his cold numbers, it went up. You have to understand that. And before I was a tax attorney, I was a CPA. I understand that. And so is the government. And we're happy to make the case for you. But a lot of people don't want to go to that extra work. On the other hand, there's a lot of fraud going on, and the government's investigating those. And there's a whole bunch of companies that have just popped up just to do ERC, and then they're going to disappear. And when the IRS has a few questions, you're not going to be able to find them. We're a tax law firm that has been around. Probably everybody has heard me for years. I broadcasted on Station X with you and Nikki and the others. Everybody knows me. We've been around for over 30 years practicing tax law. We're here for you. We want to take care of you. And the bottom line is, don't go to the guys that say that tell you don't qualify because they only did the one test instead of the two. And don't go to the scammers that'll say, sure, yeah, they'll get you lots of money. Well, what they'll get you is in lots of trouble. We want to get you the money without you having a problem, without you losing any sleep, so you can sleep the sleep of the innocent.
Sleep the sleep of the innocent. It is true that there's so many of these fly-by-night guys who go up and they vanish, with the morning light. Steve has been around. He will be around, and you should contact him. You can reach Steve Moskowitz by phone, 888-TAX-DEAL, 888-TAX-DEAL, 888-TAX-DEAL. Or you can reach him online, of course, MoskowitzLLP.com. Mad love for you, Steve. Thank you. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Yeah. Steve Moskowitz, everyone. Mm-hmm.
Do you feel it? It's the Mark Thompson Show.
That was creepy.
Well, it's Halloween, I think.
That was audit music.
Oh, yes.
Ooh, spooky.
Yes. Oh, my God.
Do you feel it? It's the Mark Thompson Show.
Did you guys see my creepy living room today with the skeletons?
Yes.
Yes. Creepy.
Very impressive. Yeah, you really represented on Halloween.
Kim, how are you?
Right. I do want to shout out to some of our mini sponsors, those of you who have supported us in all the ways that you do. Lynn Ridley, $5.
Thank you so much.
Come on, Lynn. Thank you for that. Very cool that you find the super chat, or you can hit us with a sticker, and that's a way that you can support this show every day. You can also support the show on an ongoing basis through our Patreon link. You can go to patreon.com/The Mark Thompson Show. Or you can go to Patreon. You'll find everything. You'll find Patreon. You'll find a PayPal link, everything, all the ways that we try to raise money to support the show. You can find that at themarkthompsonshow.com. And I've told you this before. This has been something that we've ramped up quickly. And there are sunk costs associated with that. But we're also trying to, make up a little bit of lost income for Kim, for John, and some money for Tony. I'm not taking any money. I have a cushion that's a little bit bigger, I think, than everybody else's, so I can live sort of in a free fall for a little while. But I want to get these people money because I love having them on the show. And at some point, they need a job, So this is something we work hard to produce, and we so appreciate your support. I mean, you've been...
And we're not willing to sell out yet.
No. You feel you'd take a meeting on selling out at some point, John?
Fabulous producer, John Daly.
It's tempting.
Yeah. But we really do want to stay on the air with you in this configuration of people, and we want everything to get better. So please post the link again for Saturday's show. Saturday was a Twitter Spaces. I'll repost it if you'd like. I mean, it's on my timeline. You can just go back and you can find it. There's a whole conversation about what electric car people want to buy. And that's the great thing about our chat. I love it. It's that it's a community. You guys can see each other and talk with each other on the chat. So the other thing I need you to do, though, before you leave us today, is smash that like button.
Smash it with your iron rod.
You have to smash it because the like button, even if you're watching us in playback, that is so very important. So the way they do it is they look at the number of people watching and they look at the number of people liking. And they, based on that, algorithmically will serve your content to more and more people. Nancy Benoit. What up, Nancy Benoit? Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you so much.
For $10. Appreciate that. Yeah. Got on the Patreon monthly donation, says Lynn. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that really does matter. And as again, all our patrons will be posted at the end of the show, at the end of every show. The lady who called to say she wanted to complain about everything she heard on the show is fun. Yeah, do we still have that, John?
You should have it.
I think, you know what? I think I might have that also. I've got a...
Shirley.
Shirley was her name. Yeah, Shirley was her name. We loved her. I think it was something like...
Yes, I'm very unhappy with everything I've heard today on your show.
We have to reintegrate that.
Perhaps by injection?
Yeah, if there was a way only to...
Maybe a cleansing?
Yeah, kind of like a cleaning.
Supposing you brought the light inside the body,
right, which you can do.
Either through the skin or
not
in
some other way.
Yeah. And then I see the disinfectant.
Oh, it takes care of it.
It out in a minute.
1
minute. And is there a way we can do something like that?
Yeah, or even like
by injection inside, or
injection inside is
almost a cleaning,
yes.
because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number along, so it'll be interesting to check that.
Yeah, right. Well, there you go.
That's not fake. That's real.
Well, I don't know about that. I think it feels very fake. But all right, so we got to wrap up. Thank you. But that was Shirley. Great to go. We'll reintegrate Shirley into our open. Nikki has a show coming up. Kevin Hobbs. What up, Kevin Hobbs?
Thank you so much.
Kevin, big shout out for 20.
Big shout out.
Yeah, for $20. Join Nikki at noon for your costume wins and fails, why people love haunted houses. Do drag queens belong at a family-friendly Halloween event? Wow.
Here is a tweet from Mother Teresa.
No, I was thinking of why are you yelling?
Why are you yelling?
And the job market might soon be turning frightening as well. Nikki sounds like she's got a very good show. Thank you for everybody who joined us here today. Thank you for the contributions and the way you connect with us. Again, we need your support to stay on the air, so that's why I make these impassioned pleas regularly, and I'll do it less as we become more sustainable, but right now we're just trying to get up and on our feet. So really appreciate everybody being here and really appreciate all the support. And don't call me Shirley. Closing comments, I ask you, Kim, anything?
Happy Halloween. I hope that you have a really good time in your NASA suit. And we're getting a lot of requests for pictures of that. So we'd like to see a photo evidence that you dressed up for Halloween on tomorrow's program.
Yes, I do have a NASA astronaut jumper, and I will bring evidence of that. Also, a couple of you had sent in Pumpkin. Lee in San Jose sent me a really cool picture of Lee and his wife with pumpkins and all the rest. So we'll share some of that as well in the aftermath of Halloween. Closing thoughts, John Daly?
Out of time. Bye-bye.
All right, that is it. I love it. Thanks, everybody.
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show.
Yes, thank you, Shadow.
Bye-bye.
Out of time. Bye-bye.
Till tomorrow. Bye-bye.